Have you ever tried to define love? I mean, really, define come up with a practical, real, applicable, working definition that you can understand, wrap your heads or arms around, and be able to identify when it happens and when it doesn't. About 15 years ago, I went through my divorce, and I just spent a lot of time, over a long period of time, researching that and analyzing it and trying to come up with some workable understanding of love so that the next time around I wouldn't make the same mistakes and perhaps would be able to avoid divorce again all over, completely. Now, obviously, I mean, you can probably suspect what I found was it took a lot of cutting through a lot of stereotypes and a lot of pop culture's ideas and misinformation and just flat out bad information to come up with what I think is an authentic definition of love, or better said, a definition of authentic love. Again, I'm focused on something that's practical and that we can put into practice and understand it and know it, and not some esoteric theory that we can just sit around and cogitate on. So here's what I came up with. This is my definition of love. It means to act in someone's best interest. Now, that someone could be ourselves, it could be our best friend, it could be our spouse, it could be someone we work with, our kids, it could be our enemy. We can act in our enemy's best interest and actually leave them in the position of being our enemy. Now, part of what I think it means, and in the way it applies, is the more we know about someone, the more capacity we have to love them, the more to show them, because we understand more what's in their best interests. But that's a kind of a double-edged sword, because the more we know about somebody, then the easier it is to fail or refuse to act in their best interest. So it comes almost with its own sort of responsibility. Now, the definition, as I've stated it, really breaks down into two parts. The first part is the action, and that's the easiest part. Love is action. It's not solely intentional. Without action, I don't think it's anything. You've heard the phrase probably, the road of good intentions isn't paved to anywhere. And I think that certainly applies to love. And think about it. I mean, if we're the object of the love, if we want to be loved or feel loved, we're not going to feel intention. We're going to feel action. There are different types of actions that we're going to feel that make us feel love. But in any event, it's always an action. So those intentions must be implemented. Now, the second part of the definition is where it gets fun and really challenging, and that is the term best interest. By the way, I'm a lawyer, so I deal with defined terms and twist things around, and I work with definitions in my practice on a daily basis. So what I'm going to do, I'm probably going to at least plan to spend a lot of time on this video blog explaining and applying that term best interest in the context of what that means to be, how that is love. I think that the cornerstone is to accurately understand how to act in our own best interests first. And then, as the better we are at that, the better we're going to be at showing someone else love and at recognizing somebody else's love actions back to us. It doesn't take, but it takes more than just knowing what's in our best interest. We have to be disciplined enough to do it for ourselves as well. We have to actually act, not just intention, we have to actually act in our own best interests. It doesn't mean selfish, doesn't mean narcissistic at all. In fact, it's the opposite of that. And I'll explain that as we go along through this. But it means we have to start with acting in our own best interests. Now, finally, just for this video, I want to point out that I think love is a practice. I think it's a lifestyle. I think it applies 24/7. And some days we're going to be better at it. Some days we're not going to be so good at it. Some days we're going to fail miserably at it. And that's kind of where, mercy and grace and forgiveness come into it. And we have to have that because we're humans and we're not perfect. But I think over time, if you look at, take a longer period of time, you'll see a gradual or increase in our getting it right over time. I think that works for any long-term relationship, and marriage, of course, goes in there. Long-distance or long-term relationships with a significant other, family relationships that happen over time. Because part of that is the more time that we have, we get better at it, our own experience, but we also, again, learn more about other people. So we have more capacity to know how to act in their best interest. So stay tuned to this video blog for more on why I believe love means to act in someone's best interest, and just what that means and what it looks like when we put it into practice.